Welcome to the Jeremy and Andy Talk Movies podcast. I am Jeremy.
Good job. I'm Andy.
And this week we are talking about the latest superhero movie release.
Thank goodness we finally got a superhero movie.
That's right. Not from the beloved Marvel Studios. Instead, from the much more maligned Sony. What do they call it? Just the Sony universe? Yeah.
It's like Marvel's like fourth cousin who shows up to a reunion and nobody likes him, and yeah.
So we've talked a decent amount about the track record of this studio and how it hasn't been stellar.
Right.
It's already given us this year Madam Web, our beloved Madam Web.
The beloved Madam Web. It's given us a lot of material this year.
It sure has. But this one is Kraven the Hunter.
It is.
A character almost as obscure as Madam Web.
Right.
And because of its studio, because it's a character nobody's really heard much about, there was a lot of skepticism. Will this be the movie that saves the Sonyverse? I know Sony seemed to have a lot of confidence in it. There was supposedly they moved it to the Christmas time because they thought this is going to be a hit and people are going to want to go see this movie a bunch over the Christmas break. And
spoiler alert, they did not.
They did not.
This is not spoiling my thoughts. Colossal bomb. Do you know how much money it made this weekend in
about
the U.S.?
$11 million.
$11 million.
Which is not a lot.
$130 million budget, I believe. So
not a great start, to say the least.
To say the least. I think it's $26 million worldwide.
Yeah, that's...
this is going to be an enormous failure.
Yeah, it's safe to say this is not the movie that's saving the Sonyverse.
Yeah, financially.
At all. I had mild hopes for this movie on account of just the fact that I like Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I thought the previews looked like, if not great, it looked at least interesting, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we were nearing it, I went into Madam Web kind of knowing, like, I feel like we're about to get a giant turd.
Yeah.
I went into Kraven the Hunter going, we'll see. Like, this...
Maybe this will...
Yeah, I'm really hoping. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
I really wanted to be able to come in here and be like, Kraven the Hunter. They did it. They cracked the code.
Right.
They found it. I guess just briefly we should explain, because as we said, not a really well-known character.
Yeah.
Kraven the Hunter is not even just a regular hero. It's sort of an anti-hero.
Yeah.
He is a guy, as we're introduced to him at the beginning of the movie, who just has superpowers.
Yeah.
It's not entirely clear, other than he's got sort of super strength.
He can strong and
there's some sort of animal connection where he can climb around on buildings, run really fast, and see really sharply and things that it's never made clear, but it's okay. You kind of get the point. Like, this guy's just
that's good. That's a good way to put it. You get the point.
Yeah. We find out through flashbacks that this happened because as a teenager on a hunting trip with his dad, which is we'll get into more later. There's, I guess we could call it an accident that leaves him mauled and nearly dead by a very large lion.
Yes.
An Aslan-sized lion, we'll just say, if you're a fan of Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. And then a girl stumbles across him who just happened to have a magic potion.
That was
convenient.
Super helpful, yeah.
And she gives him the potion, and it heals him and gives him these magic powers. Yeah. And so then he becomes the hunter. He uses his powers... which is the most intriguing thing about the movie. He uses his powers. He's like, I'm going to hunt bad guys. Mm-hmm. And this is an R-rated superhero movie. I think is it the first for Sony?
Yeah, it would be, because they did like the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. And was Morbius R?
I can't remember that about Morbius.
I try to remember as little about Morbius as possible.
Yeah. But it's R mostly for the violence, because he's taking out these bad guys. But then it becomes... slightly convoluted without ever being too concerned with how convoluted is the plot, because there's a lot of inner workings with his family. His dad is a Russian gangster, and he's a guy who takes out mobsters. His dad's got a rival who then he's pitted against. He's got a half-brother who he's trying to protect, but also his brother looks up to his dad. So there's a lot going on. It also he reconnects with the girl who saved his life in the beginning, and she kind of partners with him. There's a lot going on in this movie, and it's a movie where I would say it's terribly complex, but ultimately
none of it goes anywhere.
Yeah, it's not complex in a way that you have to worry about, like, well, will I be able to follow? Like, it's not.
It doesn't just matter, honestly.
Yes, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
So let's go ahead and get into it. Andy, once again, I'm going to kick off to you for your thoughts on this movie.
Here are my thoughts on this movie. This is a bad movie. It is. And you don't even get it's not funny bad like Madam Web was. It is bad. So I don't want to retract what I said. And it's just so uninteresting. I couldn't make myself care. And again, I just want to say, I'm not rooting against movies. So I'm like you. It's like, look, I want this to be good. And it's just not. And I just don't care about any of this. Which I guess is like, it almost sounds like you're stating the obvious. Because, right, it's like you said, they're making movies based off of these little known characters. Unless you are just a diehard Spider-Man and the extended Spider-Man universe fan. I mean, I guess there's a lot of Spider-Man fans. But it's like, if you're a Spider-Man fan, you're getting your needs met through like the Marvel Spider-Man stuff. So I just don't understand, I guess, who they think cares about this. And I guess the answer is nobody, because these movies are just, especially this one. I mean, this opened below Madam Web. So I'm saying a lot of things. This is a bad movie. It's not interesting. It's just stupid. Those are my thoughts.
While I was watching it, I was thinking about the comment I made to you last week where I said for podcast purposes, you actually like kind of hope it's either good or really bad. And the worst thing it can be is kind of just boring. And I was watching and going, dang it, it's kind of doing that thing. It's being boring. I'll say this. Watching it, I wasn't thinking this is good, but I was like, okay, like I'm kind of along for the ride. I'm not upset. But then afterwards, the more I thought about it, the more I was like,
it's just nothing.
It's not going to hold up to any of my thinking back over or scrutiny, because the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, that really was kind of dumb. That wasn't very good. They didn't have anything here. The plot was overly complicated but unnecessary.
Yeah.
So as I'm thinking back through it, I'm like, yeah, it's
a movie I think is just going to like so quickly fade out of just the pulp culture or the movie zeitgeist or whatever you want to say. Like, nobody's going to have discussions about this movie. And it's like you said, it falls into the worst place. Like, at least you can laugh about Madam Web. Like, I still laugh sometimes thinking of Dakota Johnson sitting in that wheelchair with those sunglasses on at the end of that movie. And this, it's like, there's nothing. No. It is just a giant pile of nothing.
The critics have tended to agree.
They have.
It has a terrible Rotten Tomatoes score.
15%.
15% from the critics.
Do you know what Madam Web's was?
I need to look that up.
Just as a point of comparison, I wonder.
While I'm doing that, though, kind of surprisingly, the audience has not been too bad. The audience has it at 73%.
Do they
That's
really?
One of the biggest gaps that I've seen between critics and audience.
Holy cow.
That said, I don't know how many audience members are doing this. Like I said, not a lot of people are seeing it.
I was going to say.
So the people who are seeing it are probably like the people who would, like your diehard comic book fans are probably people going to see this. Although, I mean, that can be a pretty rough crowd as far as.
Like a hard to please type of crowd, yeah.
So I don't know. Let's see. Madam Web had an 11%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you combine the Rotten Tomatoes critic score of Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter, still terrible. Like not even close to being decent.
Still not fresh.
Yeah.
Though. And if just for fun you want to throw Morbius in there, it was also a 15%. So
okay. So
we're at 41%. 41% for three movies combined.
Like an F- combined, if you want to look at it that way. Yeah, and I think eventually at some other point today we need to move into just the overall Sony-verse conversation and how it just obviously needs to die and go away and never be spoken of again.
Yeah, I think we're pretty close to there.
Yeah.
So this movie, not surprisingly, had 3 writers. Again, always
proving our theory.
Always a sign, You need 3 people to write this thing. I don't know.
And it's amazing because you're like 3 of you and. I don't have one memorable line of dialogue to quote back to you.
No, and that's what I wonder when I see like 3 credited writers. I'm like, okay, maybe the first guy kind of got the basic structure of plot. And then they're like, we need somebody to come in and punch up the dialogue. And then we need someone to make sure it's comic book, has the right. And And I'm watching this going like, you had 3 writers. It probably took all 3 to like interweave all the complex plotting, but nobody was punching up the dialogue.
No,
nobody
the dialogue
was making sure.
So dull in this movie,
which made me really feel for the actors.
Yeah,
if I'm being honest, this is another one. We've said this in multiple movies where I don't come out feeling bad about any of the actors. I just feel like, man, you guys didn't have anything to work with.
They set you guys up to fail from the second this movie was greenlit. It feels like,
yeah. There's just scenes of people talking where I'm going,
they're not saying anything.
The script is so bad. You can see them like they kind of look bad as actors because you can tell they're trying to do something with it,
but there's just nothing.
But there's you're like, this is. It just feels like a bad high school play sometimes.
It does, which is I think what we talked about that during Madam Web, which is some of the. And again, I used this when I'm talking about Y2K last week, where it's like. These movies, and Madam Web did the same thing. These movies are so stinking lazy. Like, how does he become Kraven the Hunter? Oh, there's just this girl that has magic potion, and her grandmother told her once that you're gonna. What does she even tell her? Like, you were born to. I don't know.
It'll heal somebody beyond their wildest dreams or something like that. I mean, and when the healing happens, you can tell like. They're like, how does this work? I don't know. Just flash a bunch of imagery on the screen that doesn't make any sense, but just let you know things are happening.
Things are happening.
There's
Same thing. Like
a circle we zoom in on, and then a symbol that doesn't make any sense.
Gosh.
And then
and it's like I said. I mean, obviously you have to draw comparisons to Madam Web. It's the same crap. Like when Madam Web, when she goes back to the rainforest, and the guy just like pushes her into the pool or whatever, and then just a bunch of stuff starts flashing up on the screen. Like you said, it's like I don't know. This just shows the audience that stuff is happening. What stuff? We don't know. Because no one put any thought or effort into these movies.
I do think sometimes watching these, I wonder if the screenwriters are like, I've got some good ideas, but I'm not wasting it on Kraven the Hunter. You know what I mean? Like, I'm getting paid, but I'm not throwing away my A stuff.
I'm not giving you my A game.
Yeah, like this... If they like, you really just wonder, if the writers didn't believe in this project either, and it's just a paycheck job for them. So, like,
it's hard to not feel that way.
And it's disappointing. It comes through.
Yeah,
you don't feel like there's passion.
It comes bursting off the screen, and it's like not that I need some Academy Award winning writing to help me understand why this dude became Kraven the Hunter. It's not a like, man, my bar is just too high, but it's just like, seriously, just this girl, like generic girl who has these generic unspecified powers for no reason whatsoever. And it's like, and I'm going to leave this, the tarot card or whatever here too. And it's just like, oh gosh, this is horrible.
Yeah. It's not just that. Nothing in this movie is really like fleshed out.
No.
So we know his dad is a Russian gangster, and it's implied that he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
But nothing about his business or what he does or how connected he is. Like nothing is ever
everything
explored.
Is so generic in this movie. Like they might as well just be wearing, like, it's one of those movies where it's like the bad guys might as well just have like a badge that just says like bad guy on it, you know, just to.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even the one bad guy. So there's the main bad guy is the Rhino, who they kind of kept that pretty well under wraps in the previews. That
I think they gave you like quick hints of it. Like I remember there was a shot like his hand.
Yeah,
but I guess. To say something positive, they didn't give the full reveal in the trailer.
Yeah. But I honestly think it's because they didn't have faith in that character. That like I think they were kind of like, the Rhino's kind of silly. I don't know if this is going to work, so let's not advertise on that.
Yeah,
is my guess.
Yeah,
that's what I think. And then the guy who was the foreigner, and he did the weird. His eyes would like hypnotize people when he'd count to 3. But I'm like, and so what exactly is happening here? I'm not really sure. Like
hypnotizes.
They kind of like. Do the shaky camera like they're in a trance, and then I'm like, why does he even bother counting? It just all of it's very strange.
It is so strange. It's so strange. And then like I guess and it's like you get to the Rhino and I'm sure Marvel has done this, but I guess maybe I'm just tired. I just have superhero fatigue where it's like This villain is called the Rhino. So he's literally just a rhino. Like it's got to be like so on the nose, and you're just like, okay. And he's got the horn, and you're just like, and they're fighting out in this like field of rhino, and you're just like, I get it. Okay, like okay.
Yeah. That was sort of this movie's structured very strangely.
It is.
It's from the fact that we kind of began in like present day, and then we go back time, and then we go forward, and there was some references to time in the movie that I was like, I don't feel like this is adding up, which again makes it go back feeling kind of lazy.
Yeah.
But when we get to that fight with the rhino at the end, I really didn't know we were at sort of the climactic big battle of the movie.
I know, right? Yeah, because you're just kind of sitting there. And,
okay, he's running out. Okay, we're fighting. Oh, he's beat him. And, okay, it's just done.
Okay, we're done. Yeah.
And he beat him we're well into spoiler territory, I guess now. So sorry.
I mean, nobody's seeing this movie anyway. So
if you were worried about spoilers, we're in them, and we're going to continue.
Yeah.
The way he beats him, so Rhino... Most of the movie is not in his rhino form. It turns out there's references to some doctor who performed on him. That's another one where I think there's a name drop that probably
means
real comic book fans
maybe.
Like, oh, Dr. So-and-so gave him procedure. But to me, it was like, I don't know who that is.
I don't know. I don't care.
And it makes him turn into this rhino character. But he's luckily got some medicine on a backpack that he keeps hooked up to.
Very handy.
That keeps him not in the rhino.
That keeps it,
So when he finally unleashes the rhino, which apparently is painful for him, but it makes him indestructible. Mm-hmm. Also, like, are rhinos known for being indestructible? That was the thing I was like,
right? Is that
even a thing?
Is it a thing?
I don't know animals very well. But that little port that he puts us into ends up being his weakness. And Kraven sees it and attacks it, and he really goes out pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's pretty anticlimactic. Like, okay, Rhino's going to rhino him a couple times with his horn.
Excuse me.
Jeremy's gonna sneeze.
I tried to mute my microphone. I don't think I did it.
We'll give everyone a nice loud sneeze. Yeah, it's like it really, by the time you get to the end of this, it wasn't like anything was gonna swoop in and save the day. But you just go like, okay, like he rhinos him a couple times and he goes flying over this Jeep or whatever. Kraven jumps back. It's like, even that stuff is like, there is just no originality in this whatsoever. And then it's like, the convenient port thingamajiggy. And, I just think of something like, it's not even fair to compare this to like an Avengers Infinity War or something. But it's like, you think of like, the build up and all that stuff throughout the movie, and it's like by the time you do get to the climax of like an Infinity War, like I remember I was hanging on every second of that movie. Like, are they going to beat Thanos? Like, what is happening? And the snap and all this stuff. And that was such a moment. And you look at something like this, and it's not even that it doesn't compare. It's not even in the same galaxy as something like that, where it's like I'm so invested and I'm so interested, and I have this history with these characters and the Avengers, and they've done such a great job with Thanos, and it's just thrilling. And this is just, like I said, I hate to keep saying this, but just an enormous pile of nothing. Just nothing. And like I said, I know it's not even fair to compare this to something like an Infinity War, but I'm just saying, like, I guess my point is, like, these superhero and these comic book movies, they can get you. They can draw that emotion. You can be on the edge of your seat. The battles can be interesting. The characters can be interesting. And this whole Sony verse and including Kraven, doesn't even get within a billion miles of getting into that territory. And it's like, people, this can be done successfully, and you're not even getting close.
No. So, not fair to compare it to Infinity War Endgame, but one of its writers did write, or was one of the writers on Iron Man 1, the first Iron Man. And so I was like, okay, let's think back to that. What made Iron Man work so well?
Right.
And it's another kind of origin story. Yeah, it's
a good conversation.
Simplified. What makes Iron Man work so well, and what makes it so well is how realized of a character Tony Stark is. I think. And this goes back to something we've talked about several times through several movies, and it can even be true in movies that work, like the Mission Impossible movies, where we say, tell us 5 things about the character.
What is an attribute of this person?
Yeah. And so if I say, all right, tell me 5 things about Kraven, it's like, well, he's a superpowered guy who has animal-like powers. He doesn't like bad guys, so he hunts them. Doesn't want to be like his dad. He's not really moody and angry. He's not really like charming. He's just kind of
there.
Yeah. And that's what I was thinking a lot through this movie is, I mean, I was even asking, like, why is this rated R?
Yeah.
I mean, I get, like, because of the violence, he's going to be a guy who hunts people, but I'm like, they really don't lean into that very much.
They don't.
It really feels like a movie that was trying to be all things. At the same time, they're trying to be like that family-friendly superhero movie, but also have some violence. But the violence, I mean, like, there was literally points in the movie where I was going, is this rated R? Well, it probably has to be because just a couple of the bloody scenes, and then they've dropped a couple of F-bombs.
Yeah.
So I guess it is rated R, but it doesn't feel like...
And it's like, this is a question for the bigger Sony verse, where it's like, your movies are already bombing. Why are you making it rated R and limiting even more who all can go see it?
Yeah.
When nobody's going to see these movies anyway.
And we say this all the time. It's not that we're saying, hey, your movie's automatically better if you'll just make it hard R, but the point being, like, what are people going to walk out of this movie talking about? If you're going to make it a R-rated movie about Kraven the Hunter, like, lean into that violence. Yeah, like have people walking out going, like, man, yeah, that's a superhero movie where
like,
Kraven,
chop that guy's head off,
animalistic, and he
held
rips
it
guys.
up.
Yeah,
like we're just going to give, it's going to be R, but we're going to give you nothing to talk about.
He's a dark hero the way he uses violence, and that's the thing. I walk out and go, like, yeah, he kind of, like, there's times where it's like, yeah, he's a little edgy. He does just kill guys, and that's where I go, like, there could have been interesting stuff here.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of like this character in that, like, he doesn't do the hero thing of, I've got to toe all these lines and I've got to code.
You're a bad guy. I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, like, he's like, this is what I do. I take him out.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, there's probably a decent idea there.
And I'm like, that's fun. And then it's not interested in that. No. It's interested in...
It doesn't know what it's interested in.
That's the way to put it.
Yeah.
Doesn't know what it's interested in.
There's no idea what it's interested in.
Can I tell you the scene that was sort of the jumping the shark moment for me?
Please do.
It's the scene where he's set up to go to that building in Europe.
They jump him.
They jump him. But when somebody shoots a rocket at it, and he's got the other guy with him, and they jump out, and they just go down this cliff with stuff falling behind them. And they get to the bottom, and I was like, man, well, Kraven can survive that. It's already established he's superhuman. That dude is dead. Yeah. And then they're at the bottom, and that dude's like, starts talking to him. He's still alive. I'm like, whoa.
Like, this guy just...
How did that dude survive this? You're not going to tell me that Kraven somehow protected him on that gigantic fall all the way down. Like, that. It was such a stupid moment.
It's so stupid.
That I go, like... it just, like, there's no... Even like superhero logic, it's
just stupid.
Accept it.
It's like a 10-year-old wrote it, and they're like, you know what's cool? Some guy falling down off a cliff.
Yeah,
like that's cool. You know, and it's like you said, like to go back to like what makes something like Iron Man so good and this so bad. A slew of things, but one thing with all this Sonyverse stuff, like I said, going back to this whole lazy stuff, like you go back and watch Iron Man, which I do pretty frequently, and it's like. Your movie can be far out. Like, obviously, it's far out. I mean, a guy, becomes Iron Man, but it's like you watch it and they take their own material seriously. Mm-hmm. They're not like, I don't know, some lady comes by and she has a tarot card and magic spells and she just happens to cross paths with Tony Stark and now he's Iron Man. Mm-hmm. No, it's like, and it's the same structure in Iron Man. Like, it starts out and then it flashes backwards and stuff. And that works so effectively because everything that happens, you're like, all right, like I can totally buy into that. And then in the meantime, RDJ is just so charismatic and interesting. And like, why do these Sonyverse movies, like, it's almost like a slap in the face where you're like, why do you guys think you can be so lazy? And it's same. I mean, it's hard not to keep bringing up Madam Web because it's like same thing. Like, so there's this guy and he's going to push you into this magical pond and then you just can do stuff. So lazy. And like you said, the laziness and all that stuff comes bursting off of the screen.
Yeah. Yeah, you never get the sense with Iron Man that they're saving any of their good material in the writer's room. Right. Whoever's writing it.
Like they're all in.
Yeah. They're like, I've got a great idea. We're firing our shot. Like, and it's even more impressive with Iron Man because superhero movies were not in a great place when Iron Man came out. It sort of saved and launched this era. So the fact that they were we're going to use RA material in this movie that may not work at all.
Yeah.
And then it works.
It just fires on all cylinders, whereas something like this just literally misses every shot it takes. Which I think is the same thing I said about Madam Web.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does another thing that I hate in movies, which is, and it's such a small thing, but all the posters, all the advertisements are Aaron Taylor Johnson in that coat with the giant mane. That isn't in the movie until the last scene in the movie. He puts it on and sits down in that pose, and that's the last scene in the movie. And I'm like, so you advertised everything on the thing we finally get up to
in the very last second of this movie, and we're never going to get another Kraven the Hunter.
We're not going to see Kraven again.
Yeah, this is done. So I
guess I shouldn't say never, because there might be another Spider-Man movie that pulls people in from multiple dimensions, and he's a bit player like Jamie Foxx's character. But
I would assume Marvel knows well enough now to distance themselves from this crap. I mean, I don't think any of this stuff will ever be referenced again.
Yeah, I mean, probably not.
They got to get as far away from this stuff as possible, especially with a Spider-Man 4 now, officially in the works and everything. Like, they need to distance themselves from this so badly, and I'm sure they will.
Yeah, I don't know.
But thank goodness we get a tacked on end credit scene again. Right? Yeah.
Was there? I didn't stay.
Yeah, the dude is like like the chameleon or something. Like, he's talking to the guy and he turns around and he's got the same face as Aaron Taylor Johnson.
I think that's just the
is
end
that
of
in
the movie?
Yeah. Okay. See, that's how little I care. Yeah. And it's like, oh, good. Let's set up some more stuff because this movie's so great. I don't know. Maybe you want to save this for a little bit later, but it's like, has there ever been a more like a trilogy of movies, if we're going to call it like Morbius and Madam Web and now Kraven the Hunter? Like, I can't believe how little self-awareness they have. It's like, do you honestly think after how badly Morbius and Madam Web failed, and then with this coming out, it's like, you're still trying to set stuff up for down the road?
Yeah.
Or do you just call it like a stupid optimism? I don't even know what you call it. You're like, how do you think anyone cares after you've just delivered 3 awful movies that have all bombed? They've all bombed. And you're still trying to set up more stuff for the down the road? Like, come on, people. Like, you got to know when to admit defeat.
Yeah. I feel bad for Aaron Taylor Johnson.
I do too.
I think he deserved a better movie to be in.
Sure he did, yeah.
I mean, he looks the part.
He looks the
great.
part. He looks cool.
He does what he's supposed to with the material he has.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's parts of this movie where I go, this would be cool stuff. Like, I liked the action sequences at times.
In times, yeah.
When usually when it was just him taking out a bunch of bad guys, like, again, I didn't really love the him and Rhino fight or anything.
Right.
But, I mean, from the very first scene when he shows up in that prison and he's just
cool,
being cocky, but it hadn't really showed why yet. And then he takes out... I was like, okay, there's something here. Yeah. But there is something really funny about the fact that this movie was basically parodied like 15 years ago by a Rob Schneider movie called The Animal. You know? Like, when he starts running and he kind of starts doing like the all fours gallop, I'm like, that literally was a scene in Rob Schneider's The Animal.
Yeah, it was.
A movie that I actually literally never saw because it looked so dumb, but I remember the previews of him galloping on, and I'm like, he's The Animal. He's like, Rob Schneider's The Animal.
If you're going to steal from something, maybe don't pick a Rob Schneider movie. Like, you don't need to go like the Rob Schneider catalogs. Like, there's so much rich material here. Let's steal some of it.
Right. I felt bad for Ariana DeBose.
Yeah.
Playing Calypso. That's such a comic book name.
That's yeah.
That's what. Speaking of names, can we just talk about? So, Aaron Taylor Johnson's character's name is Sergei Kravenov. Yeah. So he calls himself Kraven, and every time somebody hears Kraven, they're like, what is this Kraven? Oh, he calls himself Kraven now. And it's like, you can't just accept the fact that he went from Kravenoff to Kraven.
It's not that big of a leap.
Yeah.
Like you can see the leap they took to get there.
He dropped the off.
Yeah. That's how did he come up with this name? Like, it's pretty clear.
I just wish one character would have been like, Yeah, I get it. It sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, right. Like, yeah, that's the natural step to take. Like, if your last name is that, just call yourself Kraven. That sounds cool.
But so Ariana DeBose, she was in West Side Story in 2021, won Best Supporting Actress, which I was on board with. I thought she was great in that movie.
Yeah.
She was my choice out of the nominees to win it. And man, it has just been. It's been rough this year. She had ISS, which was a bomb.
Yeah.
She was in Argyle, which I don't even remember her being in it, but that was a bomb.
Oh, that was a huge. Yeah, she
was in Kraven the Hunter now, and it's like she's not having the best of years.
So between Argyle and Kraven the Hunter, she's going to be in two movies that will be talked about as two of the biggest bombs of all time.
Yeah,
I mean, those are both these are Kraven's going to be the same way, and Argyle was well over $100 million loss. So that is a rough year.
Yep. And then, yeah.
It's like, I don't want to, it's like, because like we talked about, like the actors do, but at some point you've got to read this script and be like, pass.
Yeah.
Like, pass. Like, no, I'm not going to do this. So it's like, I'm not trying to kick her while she's down, but you're also just like, come on. Like, what did you see on the page that made you think this was any kind of worthwhile part?
The number of
zeros behind her paycheck. Yeah. And like, fair enough. Like, hey, cash in while you can. I don't necessarily fault him for that, but you're like, come on, man, you won an Oscar.
Yeah. And
you were really good in that movie. You were really good in West Side Story, and you worked with Spielberg and da-da-da-da-da. Now it's like, now you're doing this.
Yeah. Well, we're just going to keep harping on it. The writing, that's how you know, like, we know these aren't untalented actors and actresses. So when they're looking bad in a scene, I'm not going to blame them.
I'm not blaming them, man.
Fred Heckinger plays his half brother in this movie. Yeah. Fred, of course, we talked about recently in the Gladiator 2 podcast. He plays Emperor Geta?
I've already forgotten everybody's name in Gladiator 2.
Yeah. Well, we never really understand. But he's the funny one who appoints his monkey as second in command. Yes. So that's what we can say about him.
He's a monkey guy.
Yeah. He's having a good year. Yeah. This is not part of that
not
good
part
year.
Of it, right.
I talked about before, he was in a movie called Thelma, which was a fun movie, and he had a pretty big part in it, and he was charming. He's in a movie called Nickel Boys, which I don't know how big his part's going to be, and I haven't seen the movie. It's getting a lot of buzz as being like an Academy Award worthy movie. Gladiator 2, of course, box office hit.
Yep.
And then this one. So I think he'll be okay.
He'll be okay because this is, like I said, this is going to leave no cultural impact whatsoever. This movie will be forgotten about by next weekend.
Yeah.
I will just say too, like with the Aaron Taylor Johnson thing, it's so different than Madam Web, where like I still maintain like Dakota Johnson is just actively bad in that movie. I mean, it was a terribly written part, but she is also terrible and not trying at all, or maybe whatever. We have that discussion. So I don't bunch him in with like Dakota Johnson. I bunch him in more like to do the Madam Web comparison with like Sydney Sweeney or someone who probably was doing the best she could with what she had. Whereas like Dakota Johnson is just awful in this movie. Yeah.
Same for Alessandro Nivola, who was playing the Rhino.
Best known to me from Face Off.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Where he just randomly talked in a really weird voice and he did this. Yeah.
He's a weird actor. He's one of those guys that
he's
go back
super weird. He'll just randomly pop up sometimes, but
where I'm like, I don't even know if he's good, but he's been working for a long time, and he's.
Face Off goes way back.
Yeah, he's always interesting to me.
Yeah,
and he's making some choices in this one. He was the guy that I was going like, he may be bad in this movie, but I think he's having fun. Like he knows he's in a silly movie, and he's playing
playing a rhino. Yeah,
and so he's like, whatever. I'm just gonna lean into it.
Yeah.
Is what I think. So, even though I think he's the one guy I'm going, he might just be a bad actor. I actually think he comes across somewhat the best.
Yeah,
because I think he knew more than anyone.
It kind of seems like it.
And then Russell Crowe, of course, playing his father.
Yeah,
I said I'm actually rooting for Russell Crowe. I'm rooting for like the Russell Crowe comeback.
This is not going to jumpstart that comeback, though.
No. It is incredibly hard, I think, to be the guy who everyone knows very well and then do a very distinct accent that's not yours, like playing a Russian mobster with a thick Russian accent. The smartest thing they did in this movie was just not have Aaron Taylor Johnson or Fred Heckinger attempt to repeat that Russian accent.
You're right. That's a good point. Yeah.
They're like, we know your dad's playing a Russian mobster, but we're going to say you were raised in schools in America, so you don't have the accent.
We'll just work around that.
Yeah. But Russell Crowe, I think they sold him on, like, come to this movie. I don't think it's going to be good. We'll let you do the Russian accent. That could be fun. Like, let's do that. Yeah.
Sold. Yeah. And it's another part where it's like, it's hard to be like, yeah, he's just bad in this movie, but it's just like, there's just nothing here.
Yeah. I mean, he carries the gravitas that they needed.
That's like we talked about when we were talking about the original Gladiator. He has a presence and everything, but you're also just kind of like, really, Russell Crowe? Like this?
Yes.
This is what you want to be doing?
This mobster family plot line is not The Godfather. We'll just say that.
There you go. That's an incredible way to put it.
Yeah. There is a lot of CGI in this movie. A lot of CGI animals.
Yeah.
Is the CGI good in this movie?
No. It's really not. It's not like...
Is it... Here's what I guess I think too is it bad or is it bad because we know it's CGI? Like that lion was like so massive and ridiculous. It's like stupid. It can't be a real lion. So I know this is CGI.
Yeah.
You know, like it's...
Yeah. I think too, when your movie has nothing like this does, that's when you do notice that stuff more. Whereas again, like you go to like an Iron Man or an Infinity War or something, obviously Thanos is CGI. I mean, it's like motion capture with Josh Brolin, but there's obviously a ton of CGI. But it's like, but that is good and it's interesting. So you don't have time to just sit there and, you know, just think about, all you have to think about is how this is CGI. Whereas you watch something like this and what else are you going to do? You know, and so it just makes it more glaring.
Yeah.
So I guess it wasn't bad, but I mean, I'm not going to throw out the word good either. Kind of like everything with this movie. It was just a thing that was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why wasn't someone like, hey, don't make this animal, like you can make this animal like normal size. It doesn't have to be like stupidly huge.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot that I think if you just imagine there's kind of a normal person on set and something gets salted.
Why isn't there someone to just be like, hey, guys.
Yeah, just don't do this.
Like,
make the line a little smaller. Yeah. Hey, if a normal guy falls off this cliff with Kraven will be okay, but that normal dude is smashed.
Yeah.
He is smashed. Like, just little things like that.
It's like there's like a Saturday Night Live skit in there somewhere where like there is the one guy that's like, excuse me, but that, and everyone's just like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It also does the weird thing where it toes the line between like we're in the real world, so if anybody's got anything supernatural, we have to have an explanation. But there's also just sort of supernatural things happening without explanation. Even like his brother turning into this like chameleon character because he saw a doctor who gave him some. But he already like was this vocal chameleon that was supernatural, and you're like, so what was that? And if people could just have natural powers like that, why don't Kraven need a potion to be like, why couldn't he just be...
Right.
It's just like, why do you need some things to have an explanation to make it make sense?
And some things just happen.
Some things just happen, yeah. Like,
that's, again, it's a Sony-verse thing. Because Madam Web does that the entire movie. And we talk about this a lot. Like we both hate it when, like, the character or whatever can just do whatever the script needs them to do. What else did we talk about? Venom. There was a part in Venom, I don't even remember what it did now, where it's like, oh, now he can do that 3 movies in?
Well, yeah, they couldn't stop those creatures, and suddenly Venom's like, okay, time for me to stop them.
Yeah.
And he just surrounds them and stops them.
And again, like going back to, like, I've been a little down on Marvel lately, but when you watch crap like this, and then you look, again, like I always say, look at that Iron Man to Endgame thing, and man, they took such care and concern to make sure, even if things were far out, even when you get into like Scarlet Witch, who is like this witch with magical powers, they still took that seriously enough, and they did feel like they had a set of rules that they followed. Mm-hmm. And this crap that's going on lately, it's just like, I don't know, because everyone can do whatever we need them to do whenever we need them to do it, unless we don't need them to do it, and then they can't do it. And it's just like, that is such an insult to the audience.
Yeah.
It's such a slap in the face.
And that rung true for me in the scene where he's trying to chase down the bad guys who are kidnapping his brother, where, I mean, he's getting through every obstacle.
Yeah.
And then it finally ends with him holding onto the rope and they're dragging through the water and he just couldn't pull himself up on the rope enough.
Yeah.
And it's like, why was that suddenly the challenge that, like, he couldn't...
I was like, I can do everything until I can't do this one thing.
I can literally, like, hold the helicopter on the ground by just, like, planting my foot against this...
But getting up this rope, that is just too much.
But, yeah.
And that's just lazy writing. Establish your rules. Make some kind of boundaries to your rules, no matter how far out they are, and stick to them. I don't feel like that's asking a whole lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally, like, you never would see, like, it wasn't like in Captain America 3, all of a sudden Captain America could turn invisible. Yeah. And that's literally kind of what these Sonyverse movies do. Where it would just be like, hey, Tony Stark, don't worry, I can turn invisible. And you'd be like, what? Where did they, like, they've never established this for a second. And that's what these Sony movies do.
Yeah. So Iron Man, you go into Iron Man's basement lab where he's working on stuff, and you're like, I get it. Tony Stark is a tech billionaire who's got all the cool gadgets.
Yeah.
Batman, I get it. He's a billionaire who's got this guy who works for him who creates all the cool gadgets. Yeah. We go into Kraven's house, and she hits a button. All these things drop down from the ceiling that have all his weapons on display, and I'm just like, I need to see a side movie of him installing these things and trying to figure out the electrical. And he's just like, I'm a hunter, not an electrician. How do I?
Or like he hits the button and they come too slow or something. And they're like, no, that's not cool enough.
Then they go too fast. They all fall
out.
They
just fall. And like, dang it. I thought that was going to be so cool. Yeah. Yeah. This is, I think it's getting worse in my mind as we talk through it.
And that's what really bummed me out. I think if we had potted literally like immediately after I walked out of the theater, I would have said, it's fine. I'd be like, it's kind of like the most recent phase of MCU movies where it's fine, but it's, whatever.
It's not going to change my life.
Right.
But now you talk through it.
The more I think about it, and the more I'm like, it's not even up there with those.
No, it's not. It's not. Yeah, like I mean, like I've said before, like this current phase of the MCU, I'm pretty down on, and it's still better than this.
Yeah. Because what this one still lacked in is just fun.
Yeah.
It's just like I go back to it. I think the guy playing Rhino was the only guy who was like, "We're trying to make something fun here." Everybody else was trying to make like something. Do you think
you're winning an Oscar for this, or you think you're like DiCaprio in The Revenant or something?
It's like Sony goes, "Okay, well, MCU's really captured the like fun of superhero movies,
so we're not going to do that."
And DC's really leaned into the gritty, moodiness of it. So we're going to go right down the middle.
Yeah.
We're not going to have a lot of fun. We're not going to be too dark and gritty.
So we're just going to be nothing.
Yes.
Yep. And that's exactly what's happening. And I like I said, like now with this is absolutely abysmal box office. If this isn't dead, then I don't know what's happening anymore. I don't know how they even got to the point where they were making Kraven the Hunter when Madam Web and Morbius were such a... I mean, I guess Kraven the Hunter was probably already a thing when Madam Web came out. But
yeah.
But, like, I hate to say it, too, but we've knocked, because we've knocked, like, how do you just cancel these movies? But it's like, at some point, you just need to be like, hey, Kraven the Hunter, we're just going to make that disappear like they did this Batgirl movie.
Yeah, or... You just sell it to one of the streamers.
Just throw it up on Amazon Prime or something.
Yeah, you're taking a loss of money, but you can just be like, well, we sold it to the streamer. We didn't go the theatrical route, so you don't have to have the embarrassment of the $11 million opening weekend.
Try to bury it as much as you... Yeah, because an $11 million opening weekend is so bad. And it's going to follow the same thing as Morbius and Madam Web. I said, I think when we did Madam Web, that I predicted like a 70% drop, and I think it was like 82% or something. So I'd be surprised if this movie makes $5 million next weekend. I bet this movie is going to, in the United States, it's going to hit like $25 to $30 million, I think.
Yeah.
And that's just really, really bad.
Yeah. I think what I am ultimately going to keep going back to is I think the most disappointing thing about this movie for me is that I think somewhere out there is a good version of this movie.
People like an anti-hero.
Yeah.
If it's done well.
Yeah. Whereas with Madam Web, I go, there's no version of that story.
No, that's just
where it's good. Like
no, that's a fail.
You're working with nothing there.
Yeah.
She has some premonitions. Great. Like, I don't know what's interesting about that. But this guy who's the anti-hero, the guy hunting bad guys who's got these powers, who doesn't have the typical hero lines he won't cross.
Yeah.
There's interesting stuff there. Or it could be. I actually even think there's some interesting things in the convoluted plot. I do think it could have been interesting the way he finds out his dad had orchestrated everything for him to go up against his rival, to take his rival out. But by that point in the movie, when that reveal happens, I was like,
it's too late, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
You could have had me 45 minutes ago. You don't have me now.
Exactly, because we just wrapped up a climax that I didn't realize till it was over was the climax, and now you're trying to tell me, haha, and now there's a big twist, and I'm going, well,
too late.
Yeah,
it's just too late, guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Again, not that we talk about time. Don't spell things out for us too much. Trust the audience, but just when that twist happened, is like, it kind of feels like you just were like, we need something else to happen in this movie. Well, let's just say all of that was the dad's idea. It didn't feel like they wrote it with that in mind.
No, just like a last minute idea type of situation.
Yeah, and even if it was written with that in mind in the movie, like,
it doesn't work.
When it happens, I don't go, oh shoot.
Now I'm rethinking everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, you just have to ask yourself, like, I'd love to talk to someone, whoever was in charge of this like Sony-verse thing, like, what was their ultimate goal? You're taking Morbius and Madam Web and now Kraven the Hunter, like 3 characters that, I mean, I guess exist in the same like extended universe, very extended universe, but 3 movies that have no commonality to them at all.
No.
It's like, what did you think was going to happen here? Like, what was your ultimate goal here?
Yeah.
Like, again,
you're not building out the rogues gallery or something. Like,
it's I hope one day there's some kind of like documentary made or something about what a misfire this all was. Like, it's especially impressive, but not in the right way, that the 3 movies were such a misfire individually, and just the overall big picture, if there was one, has been such a misfire. I mean, this is really, like, not to be dramatic, but if you think about it, this has got to be considered one of the all-time biggest disasters, is this Sony-verse thing. I mean, 3 movies, like, what do we say? 3 movies that combined for a critic score of 40-something%, all lost money. Nobody talk. Like, this is just a fail on literally every level.
You know who's got to be loving it? The DC universe.
At least it gives them something.
Yeah, thank you. We're not the laughing stock, at least we're not Sony.
At least we're not Sony. Yeah, this has got to be one of the all-time biggest movie failures.
Yeah. Which, I guess, technically, Sony is still the studio behind the animated Spider-Verse movies, right?
Yeah, I believe.
Which is so wild. It's like, those how can a studio be
overflowing with fun and originality and everything that these movies are not.
Yeah, so it's like you've got on one hand this big hit franchise, and then over here just all these failures. And I guess the big hit franchise is basically just sort of balancing out the budget for all these failures.
I guess
all the success of that one maybe helps them break even overall.
I guess. I mean, and to me, like, going forward, the only correct answer is just to let this die.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody wants to see any of these characters ever again. I think after 3 movies, it's just too late. I mean, it's just too late. You got to let this die. And I if they don't, then whatever critical and box office disasters they get going forward, they deserve it.
Yeah.
I mean, you just need to wash your hands of this and be like, you know what? That failed. Like, we all do it in life. Sometimes you try something and it just doesn't work, and this is their version of that. So, Sony-verse people, just you tried, you failed, you struck out, it's over.
Yeah. This we probably should be like wrapping up there with big picture, but I just thought of one more scene I have to reference.
Oh, please do.
Of really bad writing that had me. It was another sort of jumping the shark moment where I was like, oh, this movie is just bad. When he calls Calypso, his female partner at this point in the movie, and he says it was a trap and like they're gonna be coming for you, and she looks at her window and she goes, oh my gosh, there's 5 guys walking through my building who don't look like they belong here. Just 5 dudes in suits walking through, and it's like that is those are the words. Such a lazy cliche, and it's 5 guys walking. Like, why? You know, if it was 5 guys in like full on military gear with guns out, like maybe, but like
it's
you
so
just heard this.
stupid.
This is the first you're hearing of someone might be out,
and you look down, you just immediately
5 guys in suits. You go, oh my gosh,
so that's stupid. And again, like I know this isn't fair, but I want to do it anyway. You compare it to something like, and I know you don't love like The Winter Soldier. It's not one of your favorite movies, but think of how cool that is in The Winter Soldier when they kind of like double cross Captain America and he's on the elevator with all those guys and he beats all those guys up in the elevator. Like, that is a cool scene.
That is a good
scene. And that scene is like alive and there's cool stuff. And by the time that scene's over, you're like, that was awesome. And not that this is that version of that, but it's like Kraven the Hunter is double crossed and he's trying to warn someone. So I mean, it has a little bit of similar connectivity.
Yeah.
And this is just like an embarrassment and it's stupid. And then you watch that and you're like, that was awesome. Captain America just beat the crap out of these guys in an elevator, and that was so cool. And then this, it's pathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she takes a really long time grabbing her things and getting out of that building.
I already forgot. Like, how do they reconnect? Like, cause she, you know,
I don't remember.
Do they? I don't even remember. Like, do they just have they stayed in touch? Or does he just like run into her or something? Or I don't even know.
No, he finds her at that funeral.
Yeah.
Of her friend.
Does he know it's her?
He says, I've been trying to find you for a long time.
Yeah.
He had the tarot card.
The tarot card, I know.
Which she still has, by the way. And also, that thing was in really good condition
for
a guy who lives the way he lives.
Yeah.
Tracking bad guys.
Really
carries
takes
it
good
with
care
him
of
everywhere.
that.
It didn't have a blemish on it. So that was impressive.
Yeah, it was. And it's crazy that she was born just to give someone these powers?
Yeah.
Is that the thing? Yeah. This is so stupid.
And then, he's near death later in the movie, and she has more potions. She gives it to him. It was kind of a surprise.
Yeah,
I guess.
That potion. And kudos to whoever made that potion. It really, really came in handy.
She is the most self-disciplined person in the universe because she's never drank it herself. I'll tell you that much.
She's very happy to let someone else become superhuman or whatever he is, but she's got some restraint.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
It is.
It makes me sad.
Yeah.
We wanted so badly to be positive.
Dude, I feel like I've been negative for like 4 straight weeks at least.
It's a real bummer because we spent a lot of this year saying this year's been a lot better than people are giving it credit for. It's been a fun movie year, and then now as we're winding down.
I know, we did 6 like new movies in a row this summer, and they were all at least decent, if not really. I don't remember. It was like Twisters, Long Legs,
Deadpool and Wolverine, Alien
Trap,
Romulus, I think.
Alien Romulus. Like, even something like Trap, you go like, man, Trap looks like a masterpiece compared to this movie. And we talked about it at the time, where it's like, this is silly, but it was kind of fun. Now it's just, this is stupid. This is bad. This, it's like, geesh.
Yeah.
Cold spell. And it kind of feels like we're really like we're not finishing strong for the year.
No, it doesn't feel like we're finishing strong.
It doesn't feel like it at all. Going back to like Venom, Joker, this kind of stuff that we just haven't liked, and
yeah,
is Nosferatu going to have to sneak in and save the day, like from the most down, dark, weird director we have right now?
Yeah,
is it up to him to save the day?
Maybe the Bob Dylan movie will be better than I think. I don't have any hope for it.
I don't either, because I don't like music biopics.
Yeah, and it looks like just
every other music biopic,
the most musical biopic
it does ever,
or not most music, but like it looks like it's gonna have all the cliches that we don't like.
Yep.
I did see a couple other movies this week.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched the new Netflix movie Carry On.
So did I.
Okay, what did you think?
Loved it.
I actually liked it too.
That was a blast. Because I got to say, like, I've never even said this before. I love Jason Bateman.
I do too. I'm a Bateman fan.
I don't know. Like, he is just so likable. Like, I don't know. I'm just a big Jason Bateman
And I love
guy.
when he does a dark turn. He did it a few years ago in a movie called The Gift.
The Gift. I did too.
Which is a bit of a surprise dark turn from him. But when he does it, you're like, I'm kind of, yeah.
And he can really pull that off. Because when he is likable, he is so likable. Mm-hmm. But when he wants to go dark, he can go dark.
Detached. Yeah.
No, I really. So like I've said before, I wish like movies with big stars weren't just kind of popping up on streaming. But if they are, if that's the way it is, and I can't stop it. Give me these fun kind of action movies with at least a little bit of an original idea to them.
Yeah, I would say this is like best version streamer movie, because I get why this isn't a big theatrical release. Like it's kind of a hard pitch for a big theatrical movie. Like,
definitely.
But I love. I'll talk about it all the time. I love the simple setup.
Yep.
He's a guy working TSA, trying to get his life together, and then he gets put in this radical situation.
Yeah.
And it's basically comes down to like a choice, and it's all the things going on around
Good
it.
movie.
And
I really had a good time with it.
I like Taron Egerton. I think he is really good. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't become a bigger star than he is.
I know. And it seemed like at one point it definitely seemed like he was on the path.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the way it just slowed down for him. I don't think he had one abysmal failure or anything.
Did he? I think he just had a couple that didn't hit in a row. There was like a Robin Hood movie he did that's
right.
Nobody saw. And then he was like Eddie the Eagle or something, was like this skier movie that nobody saw.
It just didn't work. Yeah.
And even when he played Elton John, I don't know many people that saw it, but it was kind of like it came right on the heels of the Freddie Mercury movie where. Yeah, Rami Malek got Best Actor for that, which in hindsight, it's kind of looking back, like he shouldn't have. And Taron Egerton, I think, then comes out with the
Elton John.
Yeah, Elton John one. Everyone's kind of like, y'all aren't the same. We know Freddie Mercury and Elton John aren't the same, but we feel like we just did this.
Seen this, yeah.
No,
I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, there was only one part that was that really annoyed me. And that's his girlfriend in the movie is getting chased by a vehicle in a parking lot. And to steal a line from the CinemaSins channel, she went to the Prometheus School of Running Away from Things, where you run in the one path and something can continue to chase you. It's like, hey, veer right or left at any point.
Pick a direction, man, and you'll be all right.
And the vehicle can't chase you through the parking lot anymore.
Oh, yeah.
But... I mean, they do that in a lot of movies to build suspense, but it's just anybody with half a brain's going, just stop running in the...
Take a hard left, lady.
In the area where he can continue driving after you.
No, fun movie, though.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really well done.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah. The other movie I saw this week was Wicked.
Oh, did you see it? I haven't seen it yet.
I'll say my thoughts then.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and see it.
Yeah.
Did you watch the Megan Fox movie on Netflix yet?
Is it
called Subservient? I keep saying that, and I don't know if that's...
It's Subservience, I think.
Subservience, yeah.
Yeah. I did watch it. You're 100% right. It's a bad movie. That's a lot of fun.
Give Megan Fox the Oscar. Just let her have an Oscar. Not, I'm being sarcastic,
right, yes,
but it's like... I don't know. I could see that being a movie that I just reference a lot because it's so ridiculous, but it knows it's ridiculous.
Yes.
I know that movie knows it's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
And all kidding aside, like Megan Fox is pretty good in that movie.
Yeah.
Like for what she has to do. Like
I honestly, I mean, I'm not going to go and say she's a great actor, but she's probably one of those people that is better than she gets credit for. Because
I think so too.
She's got an image and a persona that people are like, she's only famous because she was very attractive and has no talent. I don't think that's the case. I think she was very attractive, and that definitely gave her a leg up on becoming famous, but I think she also had some talent.
Dude, I just had a blast watch. I've watched it twice, and I'm gonna watch it again.
Yeah, I'll say this too. I think it's not even trying to be like a movie that says a whole lot.
No,
but I think it actually is like a smart movie where I go like, this isn't as unrealistic as it probably would have felt 5 years ago.
No,
like this is. Feels like we're building to this in all actuality in society. So like it almost could have done it in like we're going to be a prestige movie and like take it very serious and take a look at like where technology is going. Mm-hmm. And they're like, but wouldn't it be more fun if we just made, like you said, sort of that sleazy B movie plot line,
And that, I guess too, like, might as well have this conversation. It's like something again like Kraven the Hunter, which is just no fun at all. Like, I don't care if a movie is. I don't need like I've said this before. I don't need every movie to be The Godfather. I don't need every movie to be this weighty drama that has so much to say. It's like you can be whatever you want, but it's like at least portray that you're having some kind of fun, or or it's like wink at the audience. I don't know. Like Kraven the Hunter is just this like a monotone, just blah. Like I had 5,000 times more fun watching this movie than I did Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah, I am right there with you. I did too.
Like, and then at the end of this movie, they definitely leave it open where they could make more. I'm like, please make it part 2, 3, and 4. Like, I'll just keep watching them.
Yeah, and they could.
They could definitely. It just keeps transferring into a different robot or whatever.
Yeah. That did remind me. I was like, I know I watched something else because I watched 2 movies back to back, and Subservience was one of them. The other one was Blitz.
Oh yeah,
on Apple TV. I watched that. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch that.
I haven't watched that.
It's. I guess I'll save my thoughts on that too. Then
I gotta catch up to you.
And yeah, I'll just say my thoughts. I have some thoughts on that one, but yeah.
Okay.
I'm just gonna save them.
Okay. I'll try and get that watched, and I'll try and get Wicked watched. Yeah. I will say this. Just pull back the curtain on my personal life. I do have a really long vacation coming up.
Yeah.
From like the 24th of December to like the 13th of January.
That'll be awesome.
So I'm definitely planning on watching just an insane amount of movies. So.
Well, perfect.
Yeah.
I feel like I've got a lot of busyness coming up, even with having vacation. I'm going to be going to Tennessee for, a little less than a week. And then I come back for a holiday tournament. And so we got a lot of things taking up my time, but I'm still hoping to be able to catch a lot of movies. Like I said, when we get to the end of the year, it feels like I'm trying to put in everything that I haven't seen.
I know.
But
because I want to be able to give my best version of my top 5 of the year.
Exactly.
Which, I mean, Subservience might just be 1 through 5.
Yeah.
It may just be a really easy episode where I'm just like, Subservience, 1 through 5.
There it is.
Episode over. See you next week.
Yeah. Speaking of next week we're doing our final 1999 watch of the year. Mm-hmm. We decided that we were...
I can't believe that's done. That's going to be done.
It's wild. We talked this out. This is the first time that we didn't go, here's my pick, here's your pick. We talked out and we were both leaning the same way. We were like, there's a movie we feel like we need to do. We don't necessarily want to end on this one. We want to do something more fun. And we're like, what is it? It was the same movie. So we said, we're just going to pick together American Beauty, the movie that won Best Picture for 1999. We thought it was appropriate.
We need to look at what won Best Picture.
Yeah.
American Beauty. There's a lot going on in that movie.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to dissect a little bit.
Yes. And then we were like, what we can't end on something is like, it's not an easy breezy fun watch, but you know what is 10 things I hate about you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be a fun discussion talking about...
I'm excited to talk
movies that are really about like just trying to get the hot girl from high school that you're not able to get initially.
And unfortunately, in one of them, the other person who's trying to get that girl is definitely not in high school.
Definitely not.
We'll tackle that at a later time. But I'm excited to talk about a Heath Ledger movie, and it's not the Joker.
Yeah.
We've done the Dark Knight trilogy, and that comes up from time to time. So it'd be nice to look at a non-Joker Ledger performance.
That's right.
Yeah. Have you watched them both yet?
I've watched 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah.
I've got
saving the tough watch for last. Huh?
Yes. Yeah, that's literally exactly what it is. Because I had the option to watch one of them, and I was like, maybe I should go ahead and get American Beauty the other way, but I feel like having more fun right now.
Yeah.
So I went to Things I Hate About You.
I've done them. I've watched them both.
Okay.
So. But I might. Yeah, I don't know. I've watched them both. I might try and get another viewing of each one in. We'll see.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, in the meantime, we'll be curious to hear other people's thoughts on those movies. If you've got them, send them our way.
I bet we won't hear anyone's thoughts on Kraven the Hunter because I don't think there's anyone to give any thoughts. Just nobody's going to see it, and there's no thoughts to have really.
I don't know. Yeah, let us know though if you feel like we're missing something.
I'm all ears. I'm all ears.
And you know what? I'll be happy. We say it all the time. We want people to enjoy movies. So if you enjoyed it,
more power to you.
We're happy.
I don't look down on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I only look down on you if you didn't like Subservience. That's the only time I'm judging you.
Yeah, that's fair.
Thank you.
But who's not going to like that?
It's probably the greatest movie ever made. I'm not sure, but I think it is.
Yeah. Could be.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us this week.
See you next week.